And it says we're recording, so we're started. Hello. Hello, friends.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So let's just do a little quick warm-up. Shake out an arm. And shake out another arm. Shake out a leg. And another leg. And that thing you've been sitting on way too much. And the whole thing, including your voice. And make a great big face. And a little tiny face. And say your name with your great big face. And say somebody else's name with your little tiny face. And shake all that out. Face rub. And take a deep breath. And I would love to do just a little one-sentence little telling about something you're excited about Interplay where you are. And I'm just going to call your name, and when I call your name, if you could just blurt out just a little short one-sentence something about something you're excited about in your local Interplay community. And the first person is Ignati.
I am excited about the Chicago road trip to Minneapolis. I am recruiting so many people to go to the Changing the Race stands coming up. Yay!
And Linda, you're next on my list.
Well, I'm excited because I'm a new grandma mainly. I mean, you know, and that's very Interplay-ish on my part. But also the life practice program that we're going to start next year.
Fantastic. Wow. And Jennifer, can you hear us yet?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can. So we're just doing a one sentence check-in, something you're excited about in your local community.
Oh, I'm excited about doing Interplay at Trinity House, which is a residential treatment facility for men, most who are dealing with addiction.
Excellent. Wonderful. And Caroline.
I'm excited about an activity I did with my students in my graduate class on Tuesday, where I had them take the body wisdom principles that we had covered so far, which were easy focus noticing, exformation, internal authority, and physicality of grace. And I gave them a time limit, and I said, okay, I want you to think about these deeply and how they can apply to aspects of learning. So learning, studying, researching, writing, and they did it. And it was the first time I did that, and I made it up in the afternoon, and it went really well.
Yay. And Davey, what's something you're excited about?
Oh, I am in Redding, California, and have been teaching Interplay classes here to new people, and I am excited. I have one more class here, and it's wonderful to discover new play people in any city and anywhere.
And Voice of Kamau, are you still there?
I am here. I'm excited about the upcoming People of Color retreat in Germantown, Maryland.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a blast, and glad to be a part of the organizing team.
Oh, exciting. And Jeff, what you got for us?
Well, I'm excited about going to a storytelling workshop this weekend with Interplay's Terry McCarthy, and kind of pumped up about that, wondering what kind of stories I got that I don't know about yet.
And Stephanie, what's something you're excited about?
Well, I'm going to extend my region since I'm connecting with people all over, and I'm realizing neither Pittsburgh nor Ohio are represented here. So just had a conversation with Sheila yesterday about their life practice program starting. Hasn't been in Pittsburgh in a while, and it's new in Ohio. So exciting getting that going, and an incredibly diverse group as well.
Thrilling. Phil, what's something you're excited about?
I'm excited that Wing It is getting ready to perform in a couple of weekends. We're going to do a show called Real Fake News, and into the exciting to have some new blood.
And Cynthia, what's something you're excited about?
I'm on Monday. I'll be doing a 2-hour workshop with Stephen, the intro to the Dying to Live touring cabaret. And we were just talking about it. We're having done it just once so far, and then the following weekend we'll do the full weekend of around this topic. And I have to say, the most exciting thing to me is to be able to speak in this language with Stephen and to have a way to hold his expertise, but in a shared common vocabulary. Just thrilling.
And I see at least the shoulder of Shoyenka.
Peace and many blessings to everyone.
We're doing one-sentence stories about something we're excited about in our local interplay community. What you got?
Wow, I'm excited about so much as it relates to interplay, but I'm definitely, number one, excited about the People of Color gathering in DC. Yes, 10 years we've been in the makings, and here we go.
Yay. And have I gotten everybody I see except me? So I'm going to actually say name 2 excitements because I can do that because I'm the president. And the first one is that we are hosting the Changing the Race Dance in Minnesota, and I am so thrilled on so many levels, including getting to see Cynthia and Shoyenka, and that we have partnerships with a lot of really great interested parties here in the Twin Cities. So that is just so exciting on many levels. And then the second thing I'm going to suggest to put out is that we have a really incredibly rich life practice program going on right now with people who've been long-term players who are finally jumping into this deep end of the pool, as well as some brand new people who are just finding such fulfillment in the process. So, I don't know how many of you know, but Kathy Ann's mother just recently passed away, and she is bringing all of the richness of her grieving process into the life practice program, and the participants have all told me how incredibly powerful and rich that experience is, that she's showing up fully even in her incredible grief. So it reinforces for me how we can play with absolutely every part of the human experience. And so to have just a demonstration of that is really exciting to me. All right, yay, welcome all who are here. And I think what we're gonna start with is actually, what happened to, yeah, there's Agnati, hi. Agnati, as many of you know, has been our secretary for many years. And one of the things that we are looking for is an opportunity for her to be able to step back from that role and somebody else to step forward into that role. For the time being, we're sort of sharing those tasks, but it would be really nice to have somebody who is willing to step into that role as the secretary for the board. So I'd like all of you to kind of put that in your hopper, and if that's something you feel like you have some willingness to do, please let me know. You can verbally say it, or you can put it in the chat box, or you can email me later after you've had a chance to think about it. Anything you want to add to that, Cynthia or Phil?
No, just that if no one volunteers, Celia is coming after you. So just to know.
Agnati, can you just say briefly what you do?
I am typing at the moment. So it's basically all of the documents are on Google Docs. So if you're it's really easy if you're at least a little bit familiar with using Google Docs. It's a shared folder and it just has minutes. So it actually helps me pay attention a lot by taking notes. So that's fun. And then you get to have VIP meetings with, you know, VIP people. So if you want to be in the cool club, I would jump on it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. So I think our first, actually, I think our first order of business, I'm going to skip around in the agenda I gave because I think staff transitions is probably a natural next thing to talk about since Agnati is stepping down from secretary. So I'm going to throw that over to Phil if you're ready to talk about that, some of our transitions in staff.
Yeah. Squeeze in. Okay, so a few things. You know, I think most of you know that Karen Shaw had stepped back from being development director a while back, and we had decided not to replace his position immediately. And the arrangement that we had been using with him for a while was that he was doing some monthly consulting with us. So we're just doing a kind of a monthly stipend for him to do some consulting. And he recently has taken on, accepted a new job in Canada. So he and his family are moving, and that's going to be a full-time thing. So he needed to step back even from the consulting that he was doing. In kind of response to that, one of the things we've identified, like one of the reasons we chose not to replace him immediately was that we felt like he had put in place a bunch of forms that we would be using for fundraising through the year, and that we could probably carry some of those out from the office, and that we could also carry them out with some consulting help from more on a contract basis. So Agnati has done some work on a couple of the campaigns, and some other people have been involved in that way. So that was the reason that we, you know, decided not to do that. But one of the things that we recognized that we really needed was some support and accompaniment for Cynthia with the process of major donors and looking at some of that part of the fundraising process. And Cynthia's just recently arranged to work with Susan Pudelic on that. So she is going to be consulting with Cynthia on a regular basis. And we'll get a small stipend for that. Unfortunately, that meant she chose to drop off the finance committee, but we think that will actually be a good use of her her skills. So that's one of the staff transitions. I think you probably also know that Harriet Platts had stepped back from the Life Practice Program coordination, and Jane Ciarni stepped into that position, and Jane is pretty much on her own now. Harriet is kind of on call to help with that transition, but they did some overlap, and now Jane is picking up the ball, and so we're really pleased with that. So she's off and running. Coke, Tani, who has been our liaison to people of color, leaders of color, also had indicated a desire to step back from her position. And we're in the process of looking for a replacement for her. So we've been in consultation with her and with leaders of color community, especially the people who kind of gathered at the last leaders gathering. And right now we put out a job description to that group of people, and we're just waiting to see if we get any response to that in the next week or so, by May 7th, and then we'll look at the next steps at that point. Coke is going to stay on through the retreat at the end of the month, end of May, and so we'll be in a transition period around that position. Agnati is hanging right in there. You don't have to replace her. Yay!
Yay!
So I think that's it.
Yep.
Is that it?
Great.
Any questions?
It's not staff, but do you want to mention Linda on the finance committee?
Oh, that's right. We did, since Susan dropped off the finance committee, we asked Linda if she would be on it. On my screen is down there. I don't know where she is for everybody else, but she has agreed to come on the finance committee. So yay to that. And Linda has been on it before, so she'll be a great resource. Yeah, I also chaired it.
I just want to send everybody Theron's love and ongoing appreciation and connection. He's doing well in his transition to, you know, this very full and quite overwhelming full-time job for the college of which he's an alumni in Canada, and the whole family's moving over there. So keep him in your thoughts. I know that he will be using every interplay tool he's ever earned and learned. I also want to just uphold, you know, the process of finding liaisons, you know, because these are very small stipended positions, no more than $500 a month. The people don't just say, hey, it's a job, let me do it, you know. So this is really, the financial part is a form of honoring dedicated work. It's really powerful work that people have been willing to contribute. And as you all remember, it came out of the $100,000 amount of money that we raised, particularly the liaison jobs and the vision of the community. And you'll hear soon that we're continuing to look at and learn how to grow into that. I want to honor Susan Padelek, who agreed to this, because she knows a lot about our finances and the complexity of how Body Wisdom works with these various streams, but also more so because she has a history as a professional development director and has taught classes on the kind of the spirituality of and ministry, if you will, of financial work and leadership and guidance. So she is more than fully informed. She thinks in this way. She has chosen not to be a development director intentionally, so that other aspects of her gifts are available. But I want to name that because it's not like somebody just on the finance committee is going to be walking with me. It's somebody who's very cognizant of the challenges. And when I say walking with me, a big part of my job has been in companionship with Theron to look at the big picture, the vision of what we're doing, and to kind of inform him what I'm seeing. And he helps to give shape to that. And that's some of what has been growing Interplay, is those conversations, and then how do we support that financially. And so it's a challenge to lose that role on a significant level where somebody else does all of the work. And this role is not a replacement. It's about 1 hour a week of steady, regular consultation, right? There won't be anybody much attending to the bigger picture, you know, and doing the groundwork around that, which I think will be okay for a while. But it is, I'm going through the sense of like, so thanks for listening to the changes, and also, you know, the flexibility and adaptability and clarity of our Interplay colleagues, Coke, and Harriet, who recognized that they were stepping in, and they did a beautiful job creating a sort of the initiation of the way we hold this. Excellent, really excellent work, and that it's not for them to carry. And I thank you too, Agnati, for the way that you're doing that so brilliantly. So thank you.
Yeah. This is Kamal. I have a quick question. Have there been any, interest expressed in the people of color liaison at this juncture?
We've just heard from one person so far.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much.
We're really interested from hearing anybody who's thinking about it, though.
Yeah. Anybody?
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing how that evolves.
And if any of you, have ideas about people and you want to see what we wrote up in terms of the job description, we're happy to pass that on to you.
Great. All right. I think let's actually talk to Agnati a little bit about some of the development issues, and then we'll do the financials right after that because those seem related to each other.
So you want development issues or just like a report on Give Interplay Day?
A report on Give Interplay Day and Giving Wings and other stuff about contributors.
Yeah, Agnati is holding the project of Give Interplay Day.
Right.
And that's, yeah, she's working for us as a project-based kind of contractor around these events. So yeah, she's the doobie.
Yeah. Oh, can someone take notes while I talk? I put it in the chat box. Celia, will you do that?
In the chat box, you say, or?
Yeah, the Google Doc link. You can't do it?
I can't do the Google.
One that can?
I can take written notes.
Okay. Does it matter? Yeah. Okay, so
it'd be best if somebody could type notes so that
we'll
it's transferred into the. Is somebody willing to type in just to type some notes right now? Linda, are you willing? You're on mute. There you go.
All right, into the chat box.
Just into anywhere. Just type it.
Yeah. Into the chat box could be fine, and then I'll copy and paste it. That's fine. You can do it in the chat box. That works.
Okay.
Okay, Give Interplay Day. So we had 9 cities participating and 3 special projects. And it was just really fun to kind of see all of the online activity the day of. And there was some like hiccups in terms of the template that we're using, and we're now discussing like whether that's the best kind of template to use in the future. There was just like some little things that didn't quite work for the purpose of our event. But I have the spreadsheet open right now. We got a huge donation via the New England community. It was a $10,000. And so and since it's, kind of because it's such a large donation for a region, the main office talked to them and ended up kind of splitting it up and putting some of it into scholarships for millennials and leaders of color. But yeah, I think everyone did, amazingly well. And it was around $22,000 minus some of the convenience fees as the total. And Atlanta did really well too. Yeah, Atlanta did amazing, raising a lot of money. And I think it works best in the instance where you have a specific project, kind of like the Trinity House, where you can really like show, okay, like we need funding for this very specific project that is going to help the community that needs, funding. Then there's a bigger outreach for, random people, because a lot of the time, sometimes like when we're raising in a region, it's oftentimes like the people that want to kind of like support the region. But if we find these kind of like more projects that support a wider community, then we can kind of get funding for the wider community. So that was a learning as well. But yeah. Any questions?
I was going to say, I think that reflecting on what works and what doesn't is really useful and might help us think about how to get regions to think about how to do this process.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, noticing what seems to work best. So as much as we can collect the best practices of this, the better.
Ignati, did you have a post-Give Interplay Day meeting?
Not yet. I can do that though. Would that be
Just
helpful? Like kind of a debrief with some,
yeah, I think it would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Ignati?
Just to say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. People jump.
Just a question, how did you feel like the little, little videos or little live events on Facebook went? How did that?
Yeah, I think I think that was like a great first step for the Facebook Live things that ended up happening. I think it's a great way because it shows up a little bit more than other things sometimes. And so, yeah, I think it was a great practice. And I noticed that in the millennial leaders of color, right after Kara did hers, there was an increase immediately after. So I think that, to use that platform as a way to really just let people know the impact really is something really helpful. And sometimes people forget or this or that. So it's good to do the Facebook Live, events. And Shoyinka did an amazing one and continues to do it on Mondays. So, it's just a really good way of doing the publicity. But yeah, I think just there was so much activity and that was really, really helpful doing that. I think we could do there, I think there could be some more shape to it in terms of showing visually what you're raising money for. If the regions could think a little bit ahead on a specific thing that they want to raise money for and be able to present that visually on an online platform the day of, I think that it could, that could even increase it more. Yeah.
Well, since we had no millennials in our group, we failed miserably at figuring out how to do it, but delightfully.
How did we do this year compared to other years?
I don't have those numbers off the top or in my thing.
Stephanie's gonna see if she can pull up some numbers while we're at the moment live. Right behind us on screen.
A thing that changed from last year that I think affected some of how the giving was designated was there was the main page that, in past years, it was a lot more visual where you could there was a little picture of Minneapolis and it looked like a button. But this year it was just a hyperlink, and it's to do with the template that we're using. And that's kind of what I was saying, that we need to think about if this is the best template to use, because I think, and then people who were sent to that main page just did it to, maybe they were trying to support a specific region, but they ended up just doing it to the main page instead of clicking through to a specific region, which, then it's just open funding. But and like non-designated funding, which is fine, but it's a little less visual. And another part is like people can't check out, they can't like give it to two different places in one click, which is also a downside too. So maybe somebody would, like people are less likely to click through and enter credit card information like a number of times, which you have to like enter your credit card information a few times if you want to donate to a few different things. So that's like another like downside of using this template that we can't work around at the moment, but we should be in discussion about that.
Well, I also had a comment about the template, is that it showed the amount that individuals gave. It had their name and the amount they gave.
Yeah.
I didn't like that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I found that a little, I don't know, more information than I wanted to know.
Gotcha. So you didn't want to know what other people were donating, because you can put anonymous for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fairly standard, actually, in most of the online giving things. And I think actually the wisdom behind that is that it is actually encouraging people. But it's, I guess just to put a finer point on this, we've been using For a Good Cause. That's the name of the interface that we're using now for our fundraising stuff, and they just recently have changed their interface, the design of their system, which created some of these challenges that we didn't have last year. So we're kind of looking around at, we're open to some other possibilities. So if any of you have fundraising platforms that you know about that we might look at, feel free to send them on to us.
And I can report on the last 2 years. So this year was 23,000. Last year was 15. The year before 13. So I would say it's actually pretty similar, plus that 10,000 contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this is a good segue, since we're talking money, is to move to our financial report. And so Phil and Stephanie, if you would.
Hey, can I just step in here and say that I think I lost all my notes. Somehow my internet went out, and I don't know if you have them or not in the chat, but I don't show anything in the chat. So sorry, Ignati.
We do have a recording, so
yeah, and I took some notes, so I'll reconstruct those.
We don't need to be overly worried about it.
Okay.
So I think the main thing to talk about is the budgeting process. It's fairly common for us to be constructing our yearly budget kind of in this period of time. That may seem odd to be in almost the 5th month of the year, but it's just kind of the way that process goes. I think what I'd like to do is kind of give you the headline so you know kind of what the big picture is. It's always kind of a question about how much detail to give you about the budgeting process. I know all of you would like to know every single incremental step that Stephanie and I take in this process. And we could probably record it, and you could use it as a podcast to put yourself to sleep at night. There's a money-making idea. Okay, so the big picture is, as you know, that because of the fundraising that we did in the 25th anniversary campaign, we raised $100,000 that we used or continue to use over the course of a couple of years to help us expand what we're doing. And that includes these positions that we talked about a little bit earlier, as well as having some program support and scholarship support, which has been it's been just so helpful to have those resources. But the kind of the other side of that is that we're also now in the process of trying to grow into that extra capacity in our regular budget. So we don't have the outside resources necessarily to fund that. So over a period of time, we need to grow our budget so that it can fully absorb those things that we've added to it. In the budgeting, and that number is probably about $60,000. It's somewhere between 50 and 60 probably that we've kind of added to our regular budget in terms of the spending expectations that we set up. Some of those are set things like the position. Some of them are a little bit more fluid, things like program money and scholarship money. But ideally, we would have all of that, be able to retain all of that capacity. My hope had been that the budget for 2017 would reflect at least cutting into that additional money that we need to raise. So for example, if we need to add $60,000 to our budget, I was really hoping that our budget this year would reflect that we were maybe able to raise 30,000 of that, and then we would need to grow the budget a little bit more in the following year to pick up the rest of it. The initial work that Stephanie and I have done, though, really shows us at about the same rate. So we've got this gap that is about that $60,000 that, you know, isn't kind of immediately showing up in the budget that we've constructed so far. So that's kind of the big picture, is that even though my hope had been that we would be able to do that, that the numbers aren't quite indicating that. So that's one part of the picture. The other part of the picture is that we had some extra income last year from some special contributions, and also some of the money that was left over from the 25th anniversary campaign. So we were coming into the year with probably about $45,000 that we didn't spend in 2016 that we'll be able to use this year. So that will cut into that $60,000 gap. And we also chose in the budgeting process to include the full amount of the development director's position, even though we knew that we wouldn't be spending all of that. So that's probably another $15,000 that we have in the budget, and the reason we included that full amount is that ideally we would have a development director, you know, paid kind of at the rate that Theron was paid. So even though we knew that we were going to be saving some of that money, we knew that if we eliminated it from the budget, there was a good chance that it would be really hard to get that back in. So for budgeting purposes, we included that in there. And over the last couple of years, we've had a line item for a communications coordinator in our budget as a way to try to get some transition to happen around some of the work that I do with publicity and website stuff and all that stuff. And we've not really used that money. So, but that is also still in the budget. So if you take those numbers, the $45,000 that we're bringing in from last year, the 15 or so that that we're not paying a development director, and you know the 6,000 I think for the communications coordinator, that amount kind of balances out the $60,000 gap. Did that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
So even though from a budgeting point of view, we're showing this $60,000 deficit, between the things that we're not going to spend and the money that we're bringing in from the previous year, that kind of balances out. So that's the point that we arrived at just in the last few days. So it's kind of like we looked at that and we said, oh, and we haven't gone much farther with that in terms of, you know, the formal budget that we want to present. So what that means is that for 2017, at least from a budgeting point of view, which I should also say we budget conservatively, so we tend to minimize income and maximize expenses. You know, in that process of looking at where we're going to put a number, we'll tend to work in that way, which, you know, is a good process from a budgeting point of view. So, you know, who knows how this will play out over the course of the year, but the bottom line just from that, doing that amount of work, is that still leaves us in a kind of an uncomfortable place in the longer term about how we sustain this increase in our capacity that we're trying to grow. Now there are a couple of places where I think where I was hoping that this increase might come from, that just because of the way that we budget might not show up. So for example, in the 25th anniversary process and raising that extra money, one of our intentions was to invest time and energy in growing the life practice program, which is one of our primary income generators. So if we can continue to build that and have more programs, that should translate into more income. From a budgeting point of view, though, it's really difficult for us to anticipate that for a number of reasons. One of them is that the income from any particular tuition for the life practice program tends to not match up with fiscal year. So someone might start a program in September and you might get some of that money in 2016, but some more of it is going to be coming in 2017, 2018 even, because typically the people that we're working with are spreading their payments out kind of over longer and longer periods of time, which is fine from a, we get the money eventually, but it's a little bit harder from a budgeting. So in any calendar year, we might be getting income from a program that started in 2015, 2016, 2017. And we're going to do a little bit more research to see if we can kind of see if in fact it seems like the actual income from the program is growing on a calendar year. But because it's a longer term program and the finances are longer term, it just makes it really difficult to kind of sort that out. So even though we might be seeing some of that income, Stephanie and I don't have a way of saying, oh, this is what we can expect out of that. Anecdotally, it feels like we are making progress. I think the work that Harriet did and the work that Jane is doing is gonna bear fruit. And hopefully it will offset the cost of having someone who's doing that work. But that's a little bit hard to see. So that's one spot. And then the other spot is in giving wings donations. As part of the 25th anniversary, we added another 25 or so, might have even been more than that, somewhere around that, new Giving Wings pledges, which means that income would be coming in probably over the course of 5 years, a yearly amount. So that should increase our Giving Wings amounts for each of the calendar years. There's a little bit of a challenge also with that, kind of anticipating that as well, because someone might have started a 2016 Giving Wings pledge in September or October. That's often when things are getting added around International Day of Interplay. So again, it's that calendar year kind of thing that makes it kind of hard. But even as we looked at, one of the advantages of the accrual accounting is that we kind of see what's already been pledged for 2017. So even that number was not as it was less encouraging than I had hoped. But we haven't kind of gone back to look at that very much. So, I think it could be that over the course of the year, other things develop, have this kind of work out, but that's where we're going to be looking, kind of paying attention to kind of where we see ourselves at the moment and what we might need to do to continue to adjust that. So, I think we have a bit of a hill to climb to grow ourselves into this way of working, and the work that's, from the point of view of from the programming point of view, the effect of, I just can't say enough about the influence on our programming of that 25th anniversary campaign in terms of what we raised and what has gotten created out of that. That has just been huge. So, obviously we would like to maintain that. It's really important stuff. but how that is going to play out, at this point, we don't exactly have answers to that. And Stephanie and I need to make, probably need to make a few decisions about how we want to kind of construct this budget to reflect both the numbers that we've come up with at the moment and also what some of these other pieces that I named that kind of balance out the gap that we're seeing at the moment. So I think I'll stop there and see if you have any questions about that.
So I'm just going to say back what I heard, which is that we're cutting things a little close to the bone, but no panic just yet.
Yes, that's a pretty good way to say it.
Okay. But that what we're using the money for is ultimately positive. I mean, those programs that we're spending the more money on are going to do nothing but enrich our experiences.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you have any questions that come up later, feel free to be in touch. We'll try to answer them.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Phil. And then I think that we have about 10 minutes left. And Cynthia, you wanted to talk about some of the highlights in play programming.
I think it would be helpful for everybody just to kind of hear some of the things that I believe are on if there's a board that gets lit up with interplay activity. These are some of the highlights, and maybe you can add a few more as well. But the things that we're managing. One thing you should know right now here in this office, we're at our max in terms of managing numbers of activities right now. In the next 2 months, we have 2 Changing the Race dance events. And as Ignati mentioned, we have a very large group of people coming to Minnesota, where Barbara Weiner and Kathy Ann have been gathering people. So we hope also some of our local people will show up, because it's mostly not interplayers coming at this point. So Changing the Race dance continues to be as Shoyinka says, it's like a catalyst. It's igniting the conversation as an embodied health making, visionary practice. So that's powerful, and because we're going into training, we've dropped our $5,000 ask for that event, and we're in a sense funding that through our major donors and through the funds that we can get for that event. But in the past, we asked for $5,000 to do it. So that's a shift in our financial practice. The life practice programs are definitely growing, and like you said, Celia, about the Minnesota group, I've heard similar things about the DC program that's going on now. That there's these really powerful experiences happening for people, and it does seem like with Harriet's help, and now Jane, who's really good at organizing and listening and has this long history of practice, those programs are really feeling solid, and our leaders are solid who are leading them. And I don't exactly know, I wish we had Jane on here, because she gives us records about how many programs are currently going on. I'll try to have you get that all into your hands so that you can see. We are also managing the online experts. That's been a new thing that we put in place, and that creates a product of the recording as well as the materials of that interplay expert in some field. And it's been quite exciting to kind of name that we have a level of professional expertise that's applying interplay. We have one of those today with Mark Seaton from Australia. Art and social change. The highlight of the process is that we have the summer program, the 2 weeks, and this summer we're continuing to transition the focus of leadership towards Agnati and now Natalie Abdu, who's training in Minnesota with Kathy M. That program, kind of planting that deep in the body of some of our folks, I think then is kind of helping to hold the place of the conversation and the ways that interplayers who are millennials now are beginning to hold connection and conversations in their own spaces, and sometimes leading. That's very exciting. The Interplay Way is the program that we've been developing and tracking that Kathy Ann primarily leads. Others are working at the question of interplay for sustainable self-care for therapists and healers. And we have a big CEU process going on now with the help of Christine Goutreau and Harriet and Jane, now holding a pretty, kind of a little bit of a tedious process to make sure that people can now get CEUs for our live practice program and for other events. But it takes some effort for us to do that. But we've committed to now doing that. So for educators, for clergy, for therapists, I think that's going to hold some promise. Phil had his first conversation with Interplay educators. We're interested in gathering with educators to look at how Interplay can become a model in educational curriculum design and thinking. And some of our educators like Ruth Showalter and we can kind of really see her up front, but a number of people were on a call with us, and it will probably be a slow process because we don't have very much bandwidth for development, unfortunately. But it is a powerful thing to be having that in our dreaming and in our intention. How does interplay, Caroline, obviously you've been leading in this area and we're on that call. How do we name this? How do we give a shape to it? How do we keep reaching out? And meanwhile, interplay educators are doing that without a group and without a lot of, extra kind of national sense about it. But I think it is a part of our work. The Dying to Live tour, I started this initiative with Stephen on my own and decided to bring it into the interplay realm for support because I couldn't manage to administer it as well as do all the other things that I'm doing. So I'm glad to have done that, and I hope that Interplay will benefit. I will be doing this retreat with Stephen on next week, and it's got 15 people signed up, and I have it organized to be happening in a short 2-hour session in Albuquerque and then one in Raleigh in June, where I'll be visiting our community there. And you, Jeff, hopefully you'll be recovering from surgery. And then we have it on the table to lead a full weekend of that. That particular workshop really has to do, I hope, with like Changing the Race Dance, inspiring our communities and leaders to have a way of holding death and dying as integral to life process, and to put it in a cabaret is a way of saying that our bodies, our spirits, our singing and our dancing can help us and share our wisdom and support one another. As more of us are aging, and we in the last week had quite a number of deaths that we were bearing witness to, and I'm sad to say, including our interplay leader in Germany, Imke Prinz, who ended her own life about a week or so ago, and it's very shocking for us. We knew she was struggling, but it's like, thankfully, as we know, like we were able to, on our Friday morning group, do some storytelling and dance on behalf, just to keep allowing ourselves to bear witness and to honor the life of people, of each other, and to be there for each other when we are in great grief and mourning and loss. So I know that you might want to take a deep breath around losing one of our primary leaders in Germany. So let's take a deep breath. We honor you, Imka. Meanwhile, Phil and I still hold all pretty much responsibility and leadership in the Oakland community. So we're doing the art responders, an intensive on politics and performance in the summer. Phil's just been working with Money Wisdom, coaching with people, which has been really great. And I've been leading these art responders and a Sunday night spirit play thing. So don't ask us how we do it. Right? Because I'll tell you the secret. If you wanted to know how do we do it, we do not think about it. So we think as we go, but we're fortunate, both of us as improvisers, to know that it's the underlying structures that help us and that showing up to the task each moment and then being able to drop it. I don't know how we're especially interested and gifted in that way. We wouldn't recommend it for others. But I know some of you work this way as well. And meanwhile, of course, all of the other administrative work that we are doing. So we feel very lucky to be having such full and creative lives and to be supporting our national community. Anything that you all want to mention very quickly that I missed? The leader training.
We have a new group this weekend, starting with the Secrets of Leading in the Boston area. And they in Atlanta will have teaching practicums in May and June. And of course, there are a whole variety of folks at various stages of that. So, yeah, I mean,
and just how much you all, seeing your faces reminds me, I think so much of this is, Phil and I have had a sort of a resurgence of energy around our own leadership. And maybe, Jeff, that's what happens when you get closer and closer to the sort of like the,
So I'm looking forward to that.
Right, I know you're still looking forward to it. As a person who's supposed to be on the retiring side of the work that you do.
I know my partners just came by and said, "What's he doing?"
Right? Who is he talking to? But really, so much of actually the excitement and enthusiasm, like Phil said, is the 25th anniversary. The sense of feeling connected to both millennials and to, I don't know, Shoinka and Kamal, if there's 90 people on the Leader of Color email list, that's for us more than hopeful. It's, as I said to Ade, who was asking about funding for coming to that I feel like we've been working for 10 years for this, and it's slow work to break ourselves open to create, from the background up, out of this white dance that that Bill and I are in, and how we tend to work and attract things. We're just so excited and passionate about what's happening. So, yep, I noticed it's 1:03, so I'm going to stop.
Ade touched me today. I just want to say that we were talking about the finance and such around attending and training, and Cynthia, he said he had a conversation with you, and you said, we've been waiting for you, and just how that I don't know, he and I just both felt that, him telling, thank you.
We've been working for 10 years so that you come out, you Ade, Carolyn Renee, for leadership, and with Shoinka, working and listening and trying to grow. I heard a phrase that there's post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic slave syndrome, but I heard yesterday there's also post-traumatic growth. And I wanted to grab hold of that. There's also pre-traumatic growth. So understanding that these traumas are, profoundly a part of all of our lives. But I'm so, yes, this is what we want. Kamal, I see you lit up there.
Yeah, it is what we want, and we should love that we have it and allow it to move and shape itself and nurture itself and continue to feed all of us because we're on the right track.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Kamal.
Celia? Hello?
Yeah?
Closing song whenever you're ready.
Lovely. So I just wanted to see if there was anything else that anybody has an urge to say. And a reminder that Cynthia has invited people, if they want to stick around after the meeting, to just have a little check-in, that's available for us as well.
We want to remind people that the board meeting for August, the next the big board meeting is Monday, August 7th, and it starts with dinner at 6. And the board meeting goes through Wednesday, August 9th, that morning. So it'll be at DeKoven at the same place at the retreat center. And is right prior to the leaders gathering.
Can't wait. One of the highlights of my year.
Please let us know, as you're looking at that, of any challenges or complications or yeses or nos about that, because it will help us plan and be respectful of who's there. I think one of the things that Phil and I were just kind of reaching into the air, what's up at this board meeting. One of the things continues to be the question of transition, of our leadership in the forms that it is and continuing to evolve. We don't see ourselves, this is our community and our practice as well. So we don't see ourselves, retiring and leaving something, right? So it's a really different model, and it continues to need thoughtfulness and prayer and community support and honesty and transparency, and just to be in that dream together about how do we most easily and effectively and efficiently create the right path going forward. So
somebody talking?
No, I don't think so.
No, okay. Well, let's all just take a big deep breath together. And Shoyanka, if you have a song you'd like to offer.
Yes, just in honor of the board coming together in love for interplay, this song came to me. My body and your body are one and divine. When we come together, we can tap into love. I feel it, the pain, I see it. Oh, I'm love, yeah. We're love. We're shining our light through the darkness. We're shining our light through the darkness. So I can see, you can see. Power to the people, heal the government. My body and your body are one and divine. When we come together, we can tap into love. Hey.
Amen.
The love that we all share on the board. Thank you for interplay.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Well, thank you all. And if anyone would like to stick around and have a little chit chat with Cynthia, please do. Otherwise,
yeah, or just report on what any other questions, or if you want to check in about what's going on where you are, or anything personal. Yeah, we're interested, and I'm here. So,
otherwise,
thank you.
All right. I'd love to stay, but I'm gonna have to sign off since I'm driving.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for your organizing.
What would you say?
I said thank you for your organizing for the People of Color Conference. I'm most appreciative.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. I'll touch with all of you all soon.
All
Be
right.
well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.